again. Simpiwe is my name, and there's been a few things that have been happening in my life in the past few weeks, and I felt let me share some of them, just my thoughts around the things. And a short while ago, a few weeks ago, we went for advanced driving. In this instance, they call it defensive slash advanced driving, and the basic theme is when you are on the road, be conscious of what is happening around you, anticipate things, be able to, at the very least, consider things as they happen around you so that you might realize that this and that might lead to that, and so I must position myself readily. I must manage that, and all of these things. And so, in essence, striving to not be involved in accidents. But I think the advanced part of it then comes, so that would be the defensive, trying not to be in accidents, part of incidents where uh, you end up being in trouble on the road. And basically saying, let's not be passive when we're on the road. And a lot of us are, because it's something we've done for years and we're just going through the motions. And a lot of people might not admit to this, but there's a whole lot that you do without even thinking about. If a person might ask you, you've been driving for 30 minutes, can you tell me how many traffic lights you passed? Um, if there had been something interesting that you may not have noticed at a particular intersection, and a person might ask you, you might tell them, I did not see that. Simply because whatever you were doing as you were driving, it was second nature. And so it simply says we are not always as alert as we should be. In other instances, our failure to be alert leads to an accident where we do silly things. So that's the defensive driving part. Now it says try never to be involved in an accident. But because we live on planet Earth, we're human ourselves, we're fallible, things will happen. And so the advanced part then comes from knowing advanced driving skills so that in the case where you are involved in something or it is happening, you are able to respond the best way possible. You are able to manage what is happening in that moment, knowing how the vehicle responds, knowing that if you look at certain aspects of what is happening and or about to happen, because you know certain outcomes normally coming from this, that, and the other, you are able to react and do certain things to minimize damage, harm, and what have you. So, in this course, spent a number of hours at a facility out toward Pretoria, and we started on the skip. Very, very, very nice activities there. Lots of water on the tarmac, and you had a VW vehicle, one of these entry-level VW vehicles that one would get in 2017, and another vehicle. So the VW vehicle was a manual, front-wheel drive. The other one was an automatic rear-wheel drive German sedan, and people could either use the one vehicle or the other. Some of us got to do both. Like I say, it was optional. And so we started with anti-lock braking system, ABS. A lot of people, and we were being honest. We talked about who had been driving for how many years with a license, who had been involved in an accident, how did it happen, and so through that, a lot of preconceptions. Don't want to go as far as saying misconceptions. The preconceptions that people had about being on the road. You heard people talk about this, that, and the other happened, but I had right of way, and all of these things. And these things have been noted by the instructor, and he had a very nice conversation afterwards where he said, nowhere does it talk of right of way when you look at K53 and all these other rules of the road. It always talks to if you are stopping or you would need to do something, some maneuver on the road. It always has that thing of when it is safe to do so. because it's acknowledging that as a driver, you should be alert, looking at what is happening around you, and responding accordingly. And so, even at a traffic light where it may have been red and it has just turned green, you don't just blindly get into gear one and move off. You're supposed to check, is it safe to do so? A person might come speeding through. Yes, it might be a person doing something they shouldn't, trying to chase a light before it turned, or it could be a person who's run out of brakes. Bottom line, it was not safe for you who had been at standstill to move. It was not safe to do so. And so it's important that you realize such things. That once you are in the accident, what does it matter who was right and who was wrong? People are injured, vehicles are damaged, etc., etc. So those particular consciousnesses, basically. Now let's get back to the skid pan. So they were demonstrating ABS, anti-lock braking system, where in the olden days you had a vehicle where if you step on the brakes, it does this, and then the car keeps on skidding in the direction you would not like it to go. Anti-lock braking system doesn't just clamp onto the wheels, basically. It does this, meaning it's holding and releasing at very short intervals, such that you're still able to maneuver the vehicle. Very interestingly, a lot of people were saying it has happened a few times in their lives where they have to slam on the brakes, then they feel that mechanism acting and they feel they're doing something wrong with the car. The car is getting damaged, you understand. I myself admit that I've used it a few times, and you feel that the car is a bit funny thereafter, and you kind of feel like, no man, perhaps I shouldn't be doing this. But in reality, it's something that you should be using when it is called for, and know that it's there for you. It's on your side. So people got into the vehicle. You were told to accelerate the vehicle and then step onto the clutch and the accelerator on this manual vehicle, meaning emergency stop or a dead stop. You do this on the skid pan, it moves across this water on the tarmac, and you can feel that sensation on the foot pedals and all of this. You get used to that. A lot of people had, upon applying the brakes fully, felt that sensation and started letting go again because they are unfamiliar with this thing. And so they had the turns and were able to get used to it. Now you've got three lanes and you've got the cones that are put there to show the three lanes. So you go straight into the middle lane. You're told dead stop. It skids and then stops. Then another opportunity was then given to say, you'll slam on the brakes, but now I want you to change lanes. And so they close off this middle lane with the cones, and you'd either go left or right. They'd instruct you. Come with the car, you accelerate. Obviously, it's not like race car type of accelerations. It's a case of get it up to a speed that you'd normally be at when you're on the road, just to demonstrate this concept of how the ABS works. And so you're coming straight to this lane that you had been using earlier. You're told slam the brakes, you slam the brakes, and as you're on the brakes and the clutch, you are then told to change lanes. And then you turn the vehicle either to the right or to the left, and it responds. It responds. You are able to now move into this lane. And very few of us actually hit any of the cones. Very surprisingly. And then it was explained that you have this happening because it's allowing that at least it's decreasing the speed when it closes on the wheels, but then releases to still allow you to be able to maneuver the vehicle. And all of this is happening very fast. And when I analyzed this and thought about it afterwards, I then realized, you know what? Many a time people either have a car roll over or they veer off the road because they had seen an object and they are trying to swerve. Maybe in a split second they decided, you know what, it's too close, I won't be able to stop. Let me rather swerve. Then they lose control of the vehicle. Think of an instance now. You're moving in your vehicle, it's moving fast, you realize that you're about to hit something in front of you, it then means that you are able to slam on the brakes. You are decreasing the speed at which you are moving. As you are decreasing that speed, yes, you are still conscious of not being able to stop before you hit the object. And then you swerve because the anti-lock braking system still allows that. But you are trying to swerve at a lower speed. Therefore, it's safer to do so. And you are able to avert this danger and without now losing control of the vehicle. Imagine if everyone knew this. You could quickly analyze, I need to stop. I'll definitely not stop in this distance, but if I try to swerve at this speed, there is danger. And so let me slam on the brakes. As soon as I get to a speed which is safe enough for me to try and swerve, let me do that. You come out unscathed. One might take it as not trivial information, but not all of us know this. And some of these things you need to experience firsthand for you to truly appreciate and for it to stick. Another of these activities was on that skid pan. We're being taught about oversteer and understeer and how to correct a vehicle if it so happens that it loses control either on a gravel road or on a wet surface or where there's mud. In this instance, we're then given opportunity on the VW vehicle. Uh, and it was explained to us that front wheel drive, they do not oversteer easily. Meaning you don't have the vehicle as you're trying to turn, it swings the hips and or the back toward the front easily. But to mimic that so that even in the situation where you find yourself there, you sort of know how to react. We had the instructor sitting next to us. And so you're on the water, you're taking a curve next to the cones, and it pushes the handbrake. Does the handbrake turn, but it's taking you by surprise. And so as you are doing that, it then swings to the side. Then you're supposed to counter steer. It's you then trying to have the steering wheel pointing in the direction that the side, the back of the vehicle is going, so that you counter that effect, but at the same time you are stepping on the accelerator so that as the front wheel drive it's gaining a bit of traction and it can't now swing toward the back end and the front end at the same time. As you are gaining that traction, the body of the vehicle follows the front wheels, right? And so it makes as though you are going in that direction you are unintending, but then you correct to this opposite direction and you are able to get yourself out of that little tight situation. So front wheel drive, you had to sort of accelerate, counter steer initially, and then correct. Then we tried it on this German sedan, rear wheel drive. You're driving it, it's automatic in particular. You're taking that curve, and so no handbrake turn is needed there. That was what was very interesting as well. That as soon as you take that curve, you are then told accelerate. As you accelerate, it throws the hip and the back to the side. As it does that, you then need to counter steer, have those wheels, front wheels, pointing in that undesired direction as well. Move away from acceleration, you'll see that it starts to slow down, and then you sort of correct the front wheels in the direction you would now prefer it to go, and either slightly tap on the accelerator just so it corrects and evens out. So with the front wheel drive, it might oversteer, that hip has been thrown, you are counter steering, you are accelerating to gain a bit of traction, you correct direction, you move off. With the rear wheel drive, because you've been moving fast, which you shouldn't have been on a wet surface or on a muddy surface or gravel road, you've been moving fast, it starts to throw that back to the side, you counter steer, move away from what is giving you the problem, which is speed. Remove yourself from the accelerator, it starts to slow down, you've counter steered, it can't pull itself toward the back and the front, right? You cancel a bit of that movement and then you correct in that direction you would rather be going, tap a bit on that accelerator and you're able to move. These were at the very least these basics, and you're experiencing them firsthand. You are in the driver's seat, and so you understand these things, and surely because you've been driving perhaps for a number of years, you are then able to link it with other experiences that you've had, and perhaps not truly understood how you got out of that or how you could have acted better in a particular situation. And this for me was very invaluable. And I was asking myself, why isn't some of this information at least shared when someone has been taught about the learners? even if it's theoretical, just so a person understands other dynamics such as this one. And just what I've just said about this information being shared more readily, I'll talk a bit more as well about speed at which we drive. Another example of an activity we did was on a very straight road. We had this driver, and there were cones at a point where you would have to start applying brakes, and then hopefully the vehicle would stop and we'd see how long it needs in terms of distance to stop. He came at 60 kilometers an hour. At those cones, slammed on the brakes. The vehicle took approximately 8 meters to stop. Only driver in the vehicle, no other load. It's a hatchback. 8 meters, close to there, for it to stop, come to a standstill. Then he went back up that long road, came back down, driving at 120, slammed on the brakes at that very same spot. It took about 35 meters for the vehicle to come to standstill. 35 meters. Mind you, this is a new vehicle. Tires are what they should be. Even the surface is concrete. So you'll find that even the roads on which we drive, they might not be as good as that where the grip is concerned, etc., etc. But in those particular controlled conditions, this is what it took. So in the real world, it might even take longer distances. Your tires might not be what they're supposed to be, and you might not even have that leeway because you might have another car or an object and all these things. But it sort of helps at least knowing that, you know what, when I'm looking at that object, surely I must know I will not stop in time. Therefore, I must engage my mind, apply it, and think what else I might need to do in that situation. Third attempt, the car comes driving at 160, stops at exactly that point where the cones are, and it takes close to 97 meters, 96, 97 meters to stop. We were all surprised. Just imagining the distances. And at that place, it was distances where you found you've got blocks, and so it's 4 by 4, 4 meters by 4 meters, and so it was easy to sort of count these distances out as well, and all of that. Skeptics, as part of our group, were really, challenging this thing, and then they were told to enter the car along with this car drive, this race car drive. That guy stopped at exactly that spot with them, and so there were 4 people in the car. It took even longer, closer to just beyond 100 meters. And so now you've got dynamics around what is your weight. If you've got passengers, if you've got a load in the boot, etc., then you talk of momentum now as well, where mass in motion, greater mass, obviously, will have greater momentum and all of these things. And so it was really invaluable and helpful being there, doing these things firsthand, so that bringing it all together, I understand, you know what, I'm driving on the road, something happens, I need to either stop or swerve. I look at this thing, split second, I decide what is the distance most probably between me and that object. All right, I'll definitely not be able to stop. All right, let me start looking at alternatives. Okay, maybe I might swerve in that direction or that. Where would that lead me? But if I swerve at this speed, I'll definitely lose control of the vehicle or might cause something even worse. And so now it's a case of I see distance is not adequate. I slam on the brakes. I get the benefit of anti-lock braking system. I get closer to that object, but at least I've decreased the speed. I understand that my car's tires are not locked or car's wheels are not locked. I'm able to, at a certain distance away from that object, at a certain reduced speed, I am able to now swerve and maneuver in whatever other way I need to understand. Even in instances where a person might tell themselves, you know what, yeah, I'm driving this expensive vehicle. If I slam onto the brakes, it will definitely stop. Ignorantly, not realizing that bottom line, if it's moving at this speed, it will, at the very least, need these number of meters to stop. Doesn't matter what make of vehicle it is. And so you find this person slamming onto the brake, praying, wishing, hoping that this vehicle stops. And yet they had the opportunity of the benefit of anti-lock braking system. The vehicle is expensive, it's got nice features, slam on the brakes. Because it will need, however, number of meters to stop, it will need them. But you've got anti-lock braking system, ABS. Because you've got ABS, at least you are able to decide, I will not stop in time. Let me reduce speed by slamming onto the brakes and then swerving. And so it's those type of things. And wherever I get opportunity, I talk about these things. And now coming back to the vehicle, what I talked about, perhaps the things benefiting uh, people enough that surely they should be part of K53, talking about the wheels of the vehicle. I was so pleasantly surprised to realize that no man, all these numbers that are on the wheel, they tell a story. Usually what you're concerned about is, hey, how many inch is that rim? Hey, that car has a nice profile, etc., etc. And all of these things are not really helpful. But if you understand that when you look at the wheel and it, for example, has something like 88H, that talks to the weight or load, maximum load that that tire can carry individually. So you might have another one talking of 78, for example, whatever other letter, because the letter talks to a speed rating, the speeds at which this car can still be moved, driven, and it is safe to do so. Now think of it this way. You have this vehicle and it has this number and this digits, this number and these letters, and you never bother. Imagine buying a car and you look at this thing, you look at the treads. Oh wow, this looks like a nice tire. I'm getting a bargain here. Only to realize this tire is not rated at the speed at which your vehicle should be moving. Number two, you'll find that the weight or maximum load that this tire can carry is very low. Now imagine you've got a vehicle right at the registration disc. It's got GVM. GVM is say 1680 for argument's sake. And then you have your tires which are say 480. 480 for each tire, 480 times 4, 400, 1006 there. 80 times 4, you've got your 320 there. And then you take that, it's 1920. Now you've already got your vehicle at 1006 something. In this vehicle, you will put passengers. People averaging what? 70 to 80 kgs. Let's say you have 4 people who are doing a long distance trip. You've still got baggage in the boot. Do you not imagine that that tire is more dangerous to drive over a long distance? Because if something goes wrong, it's already under pressure. Surely it can pass much more easier than a tire that allows you a bit of allowance in terms of what it can carry versus the load of the vehicle and the probable load you'd have in the vehicle. Such things like you look at some of these tires and you'll find there are 4 digits that are written somewhere. It might be, for example, 4006, which in essence means that tire was manufactured on the 40th week of 2006. This is just an off example. If you look at a car in 2017, probability might be you might find it having a 2515 or 2516, which means 25th week of either 2015 or 2016. That's date of manufacture. And then rule of thumb in terms of just safety is knowing that any tire should not be used for more than 4 years, because rubber also gets degraded. You take an elastic band, you know that if you're using it and perhaps you stretch it when it's new, the elasticity is evident. Few months down the line, you might try to be pulling it, it snaps because there's been degradation. Same thing happens with your tires. Now imagine exposed to the elements. It's hot, it's cold, it's raining, this and that. Surely there's something happening to that. And then when you keep it for more than 4 years, because in your mind you're thinking, at least the tread is not that bad. And so these are safety related matters that at least if one is aware of them, they are more diligent. And it's not stressed enough how much we rely on good tires. You look at a vehicle, the only contact it has with the road is the part that makes contact right at the bottom, the rubber. Just that section of rubber at the bottom. Of course, it's turning like that. But everything in this vehicle, human beings inside this big box, is dependent on just those sections, 4 sections of the 4 wheels at any given time. That is all you have between the road and all of this. That is what you depend on, basically. So if you understood that, people would make sure that their tires are something they do not compromise on. But these are not discussions that we have. These are not even part of conversations that we have. And so it was very, very interesting. And these are just some of the aspects of what I really felt it's unfortunate that it's not being publicized as much as it should. We talk of pre-trip inspection when the person is basically what? Looking at whether the lights work, looking at is my tire inflated enough, without really going into what are things that might be critical in the instance where the vehicle has to stop in an emergency or over long distances, temperature, pressure dynamics, and all these other things. And so I just felt, you know what, let me just share my experience of having gone to this training, defensive slash advanced driving lesson. And some of these things hopefully will spark other ideas and people just really thinking about these things, because some of them, it's things that are not difficult. It's things that when you think about it, you realize, but no, if you just apply your mind, this makes sense. But sometimes we're creatures of habits, and if something is not mentioned, we might overlook it, etc. And sometimes it's just the simple things that are very crucial. All right, with that, let me end this particular recording, and hopefully it's useful to someone in some way. All right, thanks.